much do you think teachers should make? Well, in this whole debate over how much the teachers are going to get paid, should we end collective bargaining, SB 5 and all of that, and you know what's going on across the country, the thought occurred to me, how much should a teacher make? What would be a good range for teachers? I want them to make whatever they're worth. So that's a little ambiguous, but if I had to put a range on it, I'm not talking advanced degrees. I'm not talking somebody who's been there a long time. I'm in our current structure. I don't know, 60, 70, somewhere in that range. I mean, that would be, I'm talking for really good teachers. I'm not talking everybody across the board. And I'm not talking, you have tenure and you've been a bad teacher, you've done some things that are questionable, they protected you and you've sat there for 30 years. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking to people that really do a good job. Somewhere around there. How about 80,000? Would that be too much? 90,000? Would that be too much? How about 100,000? Is that pushing it? The Milwaukee Journal released some information that teachers around Milwaukee, total compensation over $100,000 a year. They have school districts, Milwaukee County, Fox Point, South Milwaukee, all of these over $103,000 a year in total compensation. The average Milwaukee public school teacher, 2011, total compensation will make just over $101,000 a year. Just under $60,000 in salary, $41,600 in benefits. $41,000 in benefits. That seems a little excessive, but it doesn't matter. As excessive as that seems to me, it's not to them. To them, they are just out there wanting what they've gotten. Why should they take a cut? That's not excessive to them. They're not being reasonable here. If you're making $101,000, $103,000 as a teacher in Milwaukee and you're complaining that the governor's trying to stick it to you, you have lost your mind. You are completely out of touch with what the entire rest of the world goes through. But let me show you the comparison. That's 2011. 101,000 Milwaukee public school teachers average. 2011. 2 years ago, the 2009 to 2010 school year, total compensation was $87,000. They took a jump from $87,000 a year to $101,000 in total compensation. $14,000 jump in 2 years? Now that's bad enough. But what were the last 2 years like? What were the rest of us going through for the last 2 years? The rest of us were going through huge unemployment rates, and those of us that did have jobs, for the most part, got no bonuses. Many of us threatened with our jobs. You have to do more with less, round after round after round of layoffs. So while the rest of the world, the private sector, was seeing a bad economy and their business slow down because of it, the teachers in Milwaukee public schools, total compensation went up $14,000 a year. Went up $14,000 a year. On average. That means that some of them are making much more than $101,000, $103,000 a year. That's the reason people are frustrated. That's the reason they say that the teachers there are out of touch. That while everybody else was going through what should happen when the economy is down, and that is things slow down, there are fewer jobs, there is less money. All of these things are natural in the world business cycle. But it's not natural when it comes to public employees quite often. And certainly wasn't natural when it came to Milwaukee public school teachers. They were unaffected by the economy. They made $14,000 a year more. That's the reason people say that they live in a bubble. That's the reason people say, you're not getting it. You don't understand. We don't have the money. $3.6 billion deficit. And yet you're out here complaining. You're out here marching, taking over the state house that you're not getting enough money. If that doesn't lay out how out of touch and the absolute arrogance that goes along with the teachers in Milwaukee and the teachers in Wisconsin in general, I don't know what does. How do you argue that as a teacher? How, as a Milwaukee public school teacher, do you actually march on Madison? How does that happen? That takes some serious gall. Which leads me to believe they are simply out of touch. They believe they are entitled. The entitlement state doesn't just go to them, or it doesn't just go to the people on welfare and all of the people who take advantage of other entitlement programs. It also extends to the teachers in Milwaukee. They believe they're entitled because they've been able to get that kind of money, living in a bubble, unaffected by what's going on in the rest of the world, unaffected by the economy. It's just, this is what we negotiated for, so give us the money. Or we'll march on Madison. I don't know how you could show up and protest that. I don't know how you could actually, with a straight face, think somehow you're getting screwed and you go to Madison calling the governor a Nazi and everything else because you're making $103,000 a year. That's pretty rough. Yeah, I understand that's pretty rough. It's Doc Thompson, 700 WLD. Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast for meteorologist Frank Marzullo. You got sunshine this afternoon, high around 49. Clear and cold tonight, overnight low 34. It's 32 right now at the big one. Rob on a cell phone. How are you?
Hi, Doc. How you doing?
Doing fine, sir.
I made a comment about your teachers there.
Mm-hmm.
They make more in benefits than I make yearly without benefits.
I think those numbers are pretty shocking. I don't know how you go and protest that and say somehow you're getting screwed.
I don't either. I wish they'd have a job like I did and try to figure out how to live a year without my salary.
Yeah, the benefits they will get this year is $41,591.
That's
so $41,500.
$10,000-15,000 more than I make a year.
Yep, and then that's just their benefits. They make just shy of $60,000 in salary this year, and it went up $14,000. I don't know. Could you actually go there and protest knowing that? I'd be like, all right, just shut the hell up. Let's look the other way. We got a pretty good thing going on here.
Yeah, don't rock the boat.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate the call. And that's the frustration. Certainly that varies state to state and district to district. But then on top of it, and this is the thing that I found so frustrating about the letter that was written by the teacher in the Inquirer on Friday. Shocked that people would actually question what's going on in their schools and claim the teachers are being vilified somehow. Well, there's a lot of things. This has been brewing a long time. The schools, I think, are pretty much out of control. Levy after levy after levy, handout after handout. We got our handout. We need more. We need more. We need more. And yes, the teachers are not fully to blame for this, but they are part of it. School boards are as well. The idea that educators know better than you or parents in general. Administrators, school boards, local government, state and federal. There's a lot of groups involved in this. But when we see the stories of bad teachers, teachers who are doing the wrong things, and then saying you want more money, or you're not willing to stand on your own merit when you protect bad teachers, yeah, you're going to be under scrutiny. You're not being vilified. You're not being attacked. Just calling it like it is. Are there good teachers? Absolutely. Plenty of them. Plenty of them who understand what's going on here is crazy. You know how many teachers end up getting caught for cheating? Cheating on behalf of their students? Why? Because it helps them keep their job. And it helps school districts with the money coming in. In the book Freakonomics, they lay out an entire chapter on how, and I think it was Chicago public schools. Chicago schools, they used math. They used this formula they developed to show that the teachers had to be cheating. It's wonderful. And they ended up proving it, and a bunch of teachers got in trouble. Now, I understand the pressures on the teachers. I understand they have pressure to make sure to reach certain goals, and they're under the microscope if the district isn't doing as well, and they're not going to get the money. But somehow somebody has to stand up and say this is crazy. There's an entire article in the Inquirer yesterday laying out all of the teachers or allegations of teachers cheating over the years. Well, those are just the ones we know about. What about the little things? They lay out the story of, do you remember Scott Mueller? He was the teacher who was accused of basically giving the answers to the students. This is in Milford. He would essentially give them instructions or homework the night before, and in some cases would have the exact same question that was going to be on the test the next day. Well, why do you do that? So your kids know. Then he had some fifth graders that said, hey, we recognize this isn't quite right. And he ended up admitting, in fact, he signed a document saying that he looked at the tests in advance and then prepared the study guides accordingly, so the kids would know what the answers are going to be. He even admitted he engaged in, and this is the only thing that they can say that the teachers, if they're involved in this is the blanket all, a teacher is in trouble, engaged in conduct unbecoming a licensed educator. That's it. And for that, what did he get? I don't know if he still teaches in Milford or not. I don't know. Did he go elsewhere? It was only 50 last April when this thing broke. I don't know if he's still there. I know his teaching license was suspended for a whole 3 months. 3 months? Is that really enough? Where were the other teachers? And this is why I complain about the unions and say they protect people. Where are the other teachers right now saying, or when that happened, he's got to go. He's got to give it up permanently. He knew he was doing wrong. This went on for a long time. He knew he was doing wrong. But he only had to give up his license for 3 months? Is that a zero tolerance policy like they hold when it comes to kids? No. If you get caught doing something like this, you ought to lose your job and your teaching license. But it was the whole 3 months. This is the reason I say they protect each other. Instead of people calling out when their co-union workers do wrong, calling them out and saying, we are going to clean up our industry, our union ourselves. We're not going to stand for this. It's wrong. Instead, it's, hey, he got protected, and maybe they'll protect me someday. Doc Thompson, 700 WLW. Coming up today on The Big Show with Bill Cunningham. At 2:06, a 20-year brain cancer survivor joins Bill to tell his story on 700 WLW. Steve, Columbus, you're on the air.
Hi there. Good morning.
Hi there.
Yeah, I can see why some teachers kind of push the system and maybe help the students along because of some of the inequities that go along between the schools within the school system. And just from personal experience, I have a wife and a daughter who both teach in city schools. And my daughter teaches in a better school near the suburb area, and wife teaches in a very urban school system. 20% of those students in her classes are ESL students and DBH students. Well, for the past at least 5 years or more, the Columbus City Schools have been giving out merit pay for those schools who have shown improvement or high test scores within their individual schools. My wife has never gotten merit pay.
But is that on top of their base? Is that how it's structured?
Yeah, that's right. It's a separate check that comes after your last June check. You get a separate check, and that check is $1,400, which you can pay for a pretty nice vacation, you see, or next year's tuition for your children to go to college. But at any rate, teachers are trying to get out of the urban system and into some better schools where they're not having discipline problems and the ESL problem, so they can actually have this extra this extra merit pay, which is determined by the Department of Education.
Well, and this is a reason, and part of the reason for SB 5 is so things like school choice will finally have a real chance in the state. That's one of the foundations of SB 5 when it comes to schools. Open it up so things like school choice is an option. With school choice, and I don't understand why teachers wouldn't love it. It gives them an opportunity to not be stuck in a district or a situation where, guess what? The kids are not going to be able to learn. You're not going to get that merit-based pay. It creates competition, and that's a good thing. I didn't realize that the merit-based pay was a possibility out there. How is it you are part of a union and get merit-based pay? You know how outrageous that is? One of the things that people keep telling me, how do you determine merit when it comes to teachers, and how do you determine merit when it comes to cops and firefighters and whatever? The same way the rest of us get determined our merit, by our supervisors. That's what the rest of us go through. Are there things within that a supervisor will look through? Yes, they judge your success, but ultimately it comes to them. Well, we don't want, nepotism and favoritism. It happens in the private sector. Happens all over the place. But if you're telling me that you're getting in Columbus, I don't know if other districts get it or not. You're getting merit-based pay on top of that guarantee. It's one or the other. Either you go merit, it's fine. It's fine if they give you extra money and call it merit-based pay. It goes above and beyond what you're getting. But you don't want to be judged on merit. For those teachers that are opposing SB 5 and say, how do you judge merit then? Have you declined your merit-based check, that extra check you get? Have you declined it saying, no, this isn't fair because you can't judge us on merit? I would probably think not. I would think they're happy to take the money and be judged on merit then. And again, this is another reason why you lose credibility. You say you can't judge it on merit when it comes to your salary and everything else. But if they want to give you extra money if the kids are doing better, then it's okay. Then you can judge on merit. Sandra, 11, and you're on 700 WLW.
Hi, Doc. I had an incident to discuss with you. When I was on the school board, there was a program called the Right to Read. It was a federal program, and the school districts that improved their scores would get a lot of money to prove that. So when they did the pretest for the grade level, they would test all of the kids. This is at the elementary level. And when they did the post-test, they would send all the special ed, the learning handicapped, and so on a field trip. So that would totally skew the test to show a huge improvement. And it's just been going on for years and years. And this was directed right from the top. And I know this is a fact because I had a person that was involved at the top that was telling me things that were going on, and I just couldn't believe some of the stuff they did to skew tests particularly, because that federal money is an incentive, so they'll do anything to get it.
Well, and that's part of the problem. One of the other things we can do, along with questioning some of the union contracts and the way they're structured and collective bargaining, all of that, is getting rid of the federal money. Why is the federal government taking our money and then redistributing it as they see fit?
They shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. First of all, they have no business in education. It should be a state-level issue, and then certainly as local as you can make it. But taking the money and redistributing it is ridiculous. We wouldn't have that issue. If they simply left the money in the communities or in the state, hands off, didn't prop up this department that is pointless, you would have that money, you would get to decide, and you wouldn't have to worry about the federal government saying, if your test scores are this, if the standards of learning this, if graduation rates reach this, then you can have your money back. You take away some of the incentive for the administration and teachers to cheat on all of that. Tommy on a cell phone, you're on 700 WLW.
Yes, on the teachers and all this that's going on right now. Like over in Libya where those people are protesting, you may see these teachers protesting like that. You could have a civil war in this country if it keeps up these teachers and these TS workers and all these government workers, they're going to be the ones that are in the Citizens Patrol Force that Bush wanted to start, that Obama has taken over. Have you heard of the Citizens Patrol Force, where you narc on your neighbor and your brother and your friend?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
It's called Citizens Patrol Force, and it's a very serious thing that the government's wanting to start. It's like snitch on program. They make you honorary government police, the Citizens Patrol Force. It's not like what's on the street of Cincinnati. This is a national patrol force.
And you see the teachers revolting and joining this?
Some of them, I believe, already join, and they go to like your little local police departments, and they ride around with the police. And then after they learn that training, they get into this national organization like that. Yes. And if you say something wrong, I mean, buddy, you're in big trouble. It's called Citizens Patrol Force. It's a very serious thing.
No, I know. I'll check that out on my own. But back to the teachers. You are in support of the teachers or not?
Well, of course I'm not in support of them teachers. I mean, these rich union people, have they ever put any money in my pocket? You know, I mean, I do landscaping yard work. I don't work for them. I work for the wealthy people, like in Indian Hill and DeVue Park, Kentucky. I mean, these people make this big money, these union people, but they don't want to share the wealth. No.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call, Tommy, and I'll check that out. It's Doc Thompson, 700 WL. 700 WLW in the Cincinnati Museum Center, celebrating the 20th anniversary of the amazing Hubble telescope, which has sent us Earthlings some out-of-this-world pictures over the past 2 decades. Send some of your own amazing night pictures that you've snapped to the moon over Cincinnati for your chance to win tickets to the OmniMax films at the Cincinnati Museum Center for the rest of the year. For more information, just go to 700WLW.com and search contests. So the idea of merit-based pay. Willie keeps coming out and saying, well, you got to have some sort of seniority or that's the best way. I don't know why seniority is such a good idea, that simply because you've been on the job a long time, that it's the right thing to do, that they're the ones who need to make money. Yes, experience is great. Given 2 people, one that doesn't have experience and one that does, I would probably hire the person with experience if all else is equal. But you know that there are plenty of people who have done the job for a long time that suck at the job. Plenty of up-and-comers that are very good at the job. So why is just I've been doing the job a long time where you make your money? A study of Washington state teachers found that deciding layoffs based solely on which teachers have the least seniority has a significant impact on the students' ability to learn. I know. Who would have thought it, right? We all know that's the issue. We all know that's true. We all know that there are bad people, if you protect them, that have been doing the job a long time, that are going to still be there even though they don't do a good job. We all know it. It shouldn't be shocking. But somehow everyone thinks, well, seniority, that's the way to go. Here's the proof. Washington State. Seniority. Those with the least seniority getting laid off first. It's not good for the kids. This is from the Center of Education Data, research from the University of Wisconsin. They say that just because you've been on the job a long time doesn't mean you're a good teacher. And laying off those with the least seniority is actually hard on the kids, and it has a significant impact on the students' ability to learn. I would think if the unions are really serious, the teachers' unions are very serious about education and kids learning, they would look at studies like this and they would say, wow, we have got to do something different. We care about education, and we've got studies that show us that seniority-based jobs, tenure, isn't good for the kids. Merit is better. But they're not doing that. I wonder why. A little bit of trouble for the DNC. Well, you've got a bunch of unions that are calling out the DNC now. They announced that they were going to have their convention in 2012. They're going to have it in Charlotte. Well, North Carolina is the least friendly union state, according to some of the unions that are pretty ticked off. They have the lowest percent of workers that belong to a union of any state in the country. Just 3.2% of workers in North Carolina belong to any type of union. So a bunch of unions are pretty upset, especially right now with, the talk of unions and whether or not the DNC is going to get their back. According to Ngaza Lattenhouse, who's the president of North Carolina Public Service Workers Union, I think the Democrat Party is in crisis and they're trying to figure out who they are really going to represent. According to Eve Weinbaum, director of the Labor Center for the University of Massachusetts, she said the Democrats are following a strategy they've been pushing for 20 years or more, in which they try to win over swing voters while to some extent ignoring their base. They know they already have the base sewn up, so they're not worrying about it. The hell with you. And the unions want a little more attention. The unions want some more love, especially now with what's going on with all the public service workers. So they're saying having it in Charlotte, North Carolina, the least friendly union state, probably not the best plan. But they've already announced it and they're going forward with it. I remember during the last DNC convention, I don't know how you can actually have it. They have to consider so many things that are politically correct and service so many groups because it's all special interest groups. It's all groups saying, well, we need our little FaceTime, we need our little say. So, for example, when they handed out ball caps and T-shirts and trinkets and whatever else, at the last they had to make sure that each and everything was made in America and union made. Everything. Well, because then the unions would be upset. The food that they served had to be locally grown as much as possible because of all the environmental nuts. And I'm not kidding. They had to have an array of food colors because of all of the health and food Nazis. It had to be healthy food served there. They had to make sure that that bunch of colors were like orange and green were all represented in the food groups when they served food there. And they had to make sure there was special disposal so everything could be recycled for the environmental nuts. I mean, it was start to finish, every step of the way was all about servicing or paying tribute to or making sure none of the groups would be upset. All the special interest, nobody could complain. Well, you've got to make sure the union label's on all the stuff. You got to make sure the environmental people aren't going to be upset because of the way we're handling this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, they still had a convention, which, of course, created a huge carbon footprint. And all of the environmentalists, of course, still flew in for it, drove in for it, however they got there. It was an unnecessary event that they had to travel to. I mean, they didn't have to be there to sustain their life. So it was unnecessary, and they created more carbon. But they still had to do what they could within the convention. And there were also reports of them rounding up homeless people and taking them away from the convention center. Well, that wouldn't look good, would it? Them partying inside, these very caring people partying inside while the homeless were right outside. Don't you think they would have been really helping the homeless or the poor if they had taken a little plate of food out to them? Round them up and ship them off. It's Doc Thompson, 700 WL. It's Doc Thompson at 700 WLW. Ezra, Waynesville, you're on the air.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You're on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say something quick about teachers and you talking about merit and their work, and well, pretty much they get into the basics. They get paid to teach our children. That's what their job is. Then why are our kids coming home with hours of homework each and every day from different teachers?
That's a really good point, Ezra. They're not. What they're saying is kids learn this on your own.
That's right.
And still,
either that or they're leaving it up to us parents to teach our children. So we should just homeschool our children and save our tax dollars and put that money in my pocket.
You're absolutely right. My sister had a situation. Her son, one of her sons just graduated high school. But when he was in elementary school, every Friday afternoon, they would watch a movie for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it was, every Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an educational film. It wasn't something that's going to teach him. It was like Dumbo or
Yeah, just anything. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, the Disney movies. And she questioned this, and they're like, well, what happens is 3 or 4 classes will come together, and then one teacher will be in the room watching the kids while they all watch the movie, and the other ones go work on lesson plans and whatever else. What about those 2 hours? Who's teaching the kids those 2 hours? This is education? You're sending that much homework home, more than kids used to have, and we're still falling behind. So what is going on in class? Who is actually teaching? It's Doc Thompson, home of the Reds, 700 WL.